as I've said, this time is Janice Galt, executive from the Northern Ireland Hotels Federation, Liam Hayes, who is the public affairs executive with the Restaurants Association, and Louise Murley from the Insurance Hotels Institute?
Irish Hospitality.
Irish Hospitality Institute. Irish Hospitality Institute. I get those things mixed up, but thank you so much for joining us today. And we're here to discuss the situation regarding the industry associations and how they support us and how they work for you and on your behalf. And I think with so many issues emerging at the moment, like the VAT being pushed back to July, like the pension contributions having to be made, with the increase in the basic minimum wage, I know it's fraught, and I know you've been doing a lot of advocacy on behalf of the various organisations and the people who are members of you. So I'm going to start, if I may, with the first question and any of you can take it, and it is simply that: why should somebody join your organisation? What's in it for them?
Start here.
Louise, thank you.
Okay. So I work with Windward, is the company I'm working with at the moment, Hospitality in Ireland. But I returned to Ireland 5 years ago and rejoined the Irish Hospitality Institute as an opportunity to network. It was at a time, obviously, during COVID. There was the opportunity to learn skills through them as well. It was an opportunity for events. And I think from that, it's given me, it gives people an opportunity to meet outside of just through the hotels and that, but also to meet people who are working in the industry in various aspects, not just in, I'm a revenue person, so we tend to stay around sales, marketing and finance, but also to meet operationally, and then to meet with the colleges and exposure to the associations like Fáilte Ireland, the Irish Tourism Industry Confederation and Tourism Ireland, and of course the Restaurant Association as well, mustn't be forgetting. So you get exposure, and the Irish Hotel Federation as well, you get exposure to a number of these associations who are supporting our industry and also working closely with the government as well to develop it strategically.
Lovely. And Liam, I'm going to go to you on that whole piece of public advocacy. Obviously, the VAT has been a great achievement, I would imagine, and you campaigned and lobbied long and hard for it. What was that like behind the scenes?
It was a long campaign, started back after the budget in 2023, so it was an 18-month campaign really. Difficult at times. We obviously, prior to the budget in 2020, or to the election in 2024, we were hoping that in that budget that it would have been reinstated to 9%. That didn't happen. So a lot of the lobbying then restarted again ahead of the election. The election came at a very good time for the sector really, because we put a lot of pressure on all parties to include it in their manifestos. Thankfully, after the election, it was included in the programme for government that the VAT rate would be looked at. Now, that didn't guarantee it was going to be looked at in the budget just gone, but it's the programme for government is essentially a 5-year contract with the people, stealing a phrase from Simon Harris. But a few months into the new year, Simon Harris made the point that it was a solemn commitment to the sector, and we led with that. Then, obviously, we were lobbying. It was a long summer. I was expecting that August time, when the Dáil would break, that it would be a bit quieter, but there was a lot of pushback from the media, also a lot of some opposition parties, and as well different unions as such, who were against the VAT rate and didn't see it as being needed or necessary, which to everyone here in the room will obviously strongly disagree with that. And look, it was a long campaign that started, we'll say, it was from top to bottom. So our members on the ground were absolutely paramount in that, because you go into any restaurant and you speak to a restaurant owner, they'll tell you how difficult business is. The cost of doing business has just gone absolutely through the roof.
And that's the obvious question. So you've had this great achievement. it's going to mean so much to you, but you have 6 months to wait for it. It's a long 6 months to get there.
Absolutely.
And is it going to make enough of a difference?
Yeah, look, it's going to be certainly a massive help when it does come in July. We obviously wanted it to come in on January 1st, when the minimum wage is going to rise by 4.8%, pension auto-enrolment 1.5% added on. It's going to be a very difficult it's going to be a very difficult that for me.
Who's not been picked up? Just let us know who's not been picked up. Second in.
Yeah, that's me. So it's
Is
going
that
to be
better?
yeah.
Is that better?
It's going to be a very difficult 6 months. Obviously, as I said, with minimum wage to go up and a pension auto-enrolment to come in, and looking at a lot of cost increases across we'll say beef, for an example. The last 2.5 years has gone up 96%. And unfortunately, I don't see that stopping. Coffee, 153% in 2 years. I mean, the costs have just continued to increase. So that first 6 months of next year will be a difficulty. So the average business will gain annually, or will save 37,000 with the reduction in the VAT rate. That's from a previous economic study that we did in 2024. So yes, it will be a benefit, but it's not going to be the final thing that'll just sort out everything, because like minimum wage has gone up, or in January it'll have gone up 35% in the last 4 years. So you've still, like, labour costs have gone through the roof, food inflation. I don't need to tell anyone here about the cost of doing business, but there's a lot more that needs to be done to support the sector.
Thank you, Liam. And bringing you in, Janice, obviously there are equal challenges in Northern Ireland. Are they similar? Are they different? Are you noticing similarities, or do you have a whole other raft of challenges?
We had our budget yesterday. I don't know whether I'm being picked up or not, but we had our budget yesterday, and we've had an interesting 2 years, would be my description of it. Margaret Thatcher was always known not to do a U-turn, whereas Rachel Reeves has earned the name of Roundabout Rachel, which is certainly not a great moniker if you're an MP or even the Chancellor. I will say, and just to put this in context, there's been a reduced VAT rebate in the Irish Republic for 40 years, since 1986. We have campaigned for VAT for 23 years. So at the moment, there's 25% is the highest VAT rate in Europe, which is Denmark. The UK is behind that with 20%. We have 3 VAT rates, 0, 5 and 20. And for those of you who've had the joy of engaging with Treasury officials, which is, again, an interesting experience, they've always said setting up an additional band isn't a massive amount of money, so they like to keep it within the 3. So after COVID, we went down to 5%. We stayed like that for a period of time, and then we went back up again, and that was a real bounce for us. So there's only one party has come out and said now that they would look at a VAT rate for hospitality, and that's the Liberal Democrats. We generally run a book on politics, and generally get it right, so there probably will be a coalition government the next time. It depends who can manage to kind of work that around. Our minimum wage went up yesterday to $12.71. Again, a bit of a kind of movement on that, an aspiration to make all 18-year-olds earn the same money as people up to 21. We've an age bracket. Most hotels have made the decision they don't care what age somebody is, be they 18 or 85, they're prepared to employ them, and they're basically employing them at the same rate. The problems in this industry are probably island-wide, but also not exclusive to this industry. You have a problem with people, retail have a problem with people, manufacturing have a problem with people. I suppose the difference is other people maybe have a bigger margin to work with. If you're a big food and beverage house, you could be running at 40% of wage content, and it's difficult to move that. And I suppose for us, quite often I think, are you better meeting a bad machine or a bad person? People will forgive a bad machine process. They will not forgive a bad actual person. And that's a very interesting thing. You know, I spend a lot of time, we look at different aspects of the industry, reception being one point. And people talk about staff effectively in a small hotel become a fixed cost. you can't have half a receptionist, though I do believe I have experience, perhaps that particular human. But no matter, you can't have half a receptionist. You have to have a person there all the time. And I think people will be much more forgiving. Humans are fearless, they understand. They maybe don't always have the emotional intelligence. Can you teach it? I don't really know whether you can teach it or not. I just don't know that answer to that.
You make a wonderful point about that old maxim about you hire for attitude because you can teach everything else. And you said something about there being no difference between hiring an 18 to an 85-year-old. But would you hire an 85-year-old? Isn't it interesting that we keep hearing about the ageing demographic and how people are going to have to work longer? Is that a trend we're going to see? And maybe I'll go back to you, Louise, as in we've looked at the VAT issue. Are there other big issues? And hiring is going to be one of them. And how do we expand our view of hiring in terms of greater inclusivity is the question I'm asking.
In the hospitality industry, I think we're fortunate that we've always employed a range of ages. It's not, I wouldn't say it's always been just young people, particularly outside of major city centres, and that it's very much part of the community, people working in hotels and restaurants and pubs, and there's all age brackets in there. I think it will continue to, I think when you look, for a few years I was based over in the States, and when you see it there, they're probably further ahead, but it's definitely a lot more older population working still in the industry, and I think that will continue. I think with training, the likes of what Fáilte Ireland are doing, employer excellence, and that, they're helping the companies to adapt and to diversify the training so that it's adaptable to both younger people and older people as well, and to upskill people at all levels as opposed to just perhaps managerial status as well. So I think there is the support and the mechanisms there across the industry federations to continue to drive that and to allow people to work to older ages as well. Yeah.
And continuing that, in terms of the attitudes, I think, again, there's all sorts of notions, there's all sorts of preconceptions about attitudes, but definitely back to the 1995 sort of picture that we were shown earlier today, it was definitely that piece about relating to the customer, looking up. And is there a concern that with the over-digitization or somebody being really focused on the computer screen, that they won't look up, that they won't have that conversation? I'm actually, as this conversation has been going around today, I've been thinking very much of, when you bring your child into the AE, and does the doctor actually look at the child and see if the leg is hanging off, or are they inputting everything into a computer? It's such a basic thing. And again, is that generational? Is that an attitude that has to be taught? Is it something that we have to really work on?
Well, I might need to be careful answering that one.
Why not? Be controversial.
Yeah, I think obviously some of us, I've been in the industry over 30 years, and it was very much at that point, as we were seeing, 1995, that it's all about how you welcome and how you greet and you meet people and you're talking to them face to face. I think it's very important that we encourage that in the generations coming on, younger people coming on as well, because that mightn't necessarily have been as natural for them as it would have been for our expectation. I think the benefits of what the previous group were talking about in terms of the AI and the use of it, by freeing them up from being completely obsessed with the computers, will allow it to happen more naturally, and that we're not dependent on a desk that can't move anywhere in reception, that people are able to, we're trying to move away from people being checked in at the desk to walk around, to come out with. We've just upgraded in one of our hotels, and the plan is that the guests will be using an iPad to check in, so they're walking around talking to the guests as opposed to leaning over a desk and looking down all the time. So I think with the technology, we have the opportunity to move this forward. The same with the restaurants. When people are arriving, that it's rather than looking through screens or books, that they'll have it as a quick check for the name, or the guest will scan a code in, and it's much simpler than what it was before, looking through pages of books, I think, as well, isn't it? Yeah.
And even I think
missing
the
bookings.
sort of the architecture and the design, we're seeing that more and more in hotel lobbies where you have a series of small podium-style desks
Pods.
rather than that intimidating long counter. So that's moving the whole architecture in order to enable people to circulate. In the restaurant side of things, Liam, moving on to you, are you using AI actively within the organisation? Are you hearing about its use more and more?
Yeah, similar to what Daniel said in the previous panel, would be kind of different to the hotel sector, obviously, because the majority of our sector is SME driven. So a lot of people to have the time to learn about AI, essentially. I mean, I started using AI when it first came out, and when I first found out about it and started using it, like, I mean, my role as in public affairs 10 years previously, it's a completely different job. And there's lots, I think, business can do with it. And it's not to be afraid of it is a big thing. Like, I know I speak to a lot of people about AI, and they're like, oh, God, I don't know anything about that. But start small, pick one thing. Talk to the people that your staff, the young people that you do employ who use it day in, day out, with their college or school or in any way. It's little things that can make a difference, like an AI agent. I was speaking to one business owner, I know it was said in the previous panel, but we'll say he said he spends an hour every day responding to messages on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and he said the majority of them questions are all listed on their website. He has now installed an AI agent, essentially, that he's trained and he has inputted the data himself, that it takes out an hour out of his day, that he doesn't have to give to that. It makes a massive difference. You work that out as a full year, you know.
And I think we as consumers have to accept that, you know, we're not being fobbed off with the AI response or the chat response. It's a filtering system. Our question may well be answered very, very easily and simply before we insist on going on to the human to talk to and to solve the next part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, he gave me, he said one of the main things that they are, a big thing that they get asked is, do they have any gluten-free options? And he said, if you look at our website, our social media pages, it says it clearly there, but people, when you're on your phone and you say, oh, we're going to go to that restaurant or wherever, you're just like, oh, let's send them a direct message instead of searching, because time is money, essentially, for a lot of people, and people don't have the time or think they don't have the time, so it goes both ways, you know. That can be a simple response, yes, we do, and then give further details, as opposed to maybe somebody that you might have working for you that will look after your social media, that might have to then go to the manager or the chef and ask, oh, well, what exactly do we have? But if it was the manager that helped design and train the AI agent, then the information is all there and it saves that time, you know.
And I think what you're getting at there is, as well, sort of the Trustpilot generation, as in we used to see these caricatures on American movies of somebody having 25 choices for everything, 25 sauces, 25 salads, 25, and we're all getting a bit like that. We're a bit demanding. I think we might move on to you there with that one, Janice. And, you know, I think it affects restaurant and hotel equally with a very demanding customer. And obviously that's where the AI can hopefully take some of that weight off.
The demanding customer is really an advent of COVID. Mainly a lot of people have the angry customer, the customer who won't wait 5 minutes. And it's driven probably by two things. Number one, being locked up for a period of time, possibly with people that you didn't like, but anyhow, you were locked up. Again, can't comment on that. My husband and I got married afterwards, so it was a success for us. Sorry to tell you all that. But anyhow, for those of you who got divorced, I apologise. But the customer now is paying a lot more. So they're going, I'm paying a lot more. And there's also like a form of Tourette's. It's like, you know, staccato questions coming one after the other. And if sort of this mild insult of, it's on our website. You know, the typical question for hotel is, can you give me directions? And people used to think it was really insulting to be sent a link for Google Maps or whatever. But those days, the way of doing it, technology is your answer. And it's quite difficult to explain to people, your customer comes in and you now have people who arrive at 2 minutes past 3 and leave at 2 minutes past 12. They want their entire experience. Or alternatively, some hotels are now looking at doing the whole 24 hours. You can check in any time over the 24 hours, be guaranteed your 24-hour stay. You have people who are coming into your reception at 11 o'clock in the morning and going, how am I going to get in? Post-COVID, we didn't have the sheets to change the beds at 11 o'clock, never mind the rooms. And I think the customer has changed. The expectation has changed greatly. I need it now. I need it immediately. I want an answer immediately. And I want to be felt very special, because I've really spent a lot more money than I originally thought I was going to spend on something that I should get a unique experience. And I think that's true of an awful lot of sectors. You see it in a lot of things that are happening. And we're sort of at the brunt of that. And for frontline staff, we, as Cleo alluded to, the thing about zombie jobs. And some aspects of any job are really repetitive. Filing is not my greatest forte. And thankfully, the digital world has replaced a lot of that. But, your people who are there have to have that interactive emotional skills. So use your machines as best you can, use your digitalisation and use your people. But I think a lot of people don't really know what AI is. They think it's this mystery world out here of there's this AI person, the Janus bot exists significantly better than the real thing, and it's great. But they don't realise that it's actually you inputting everything. On my AI, I actually have a thing, write in my style. So I write as 3 different people, by the way, which is probably shouldn't confess, but I do write as 3 different people. So I have my own personal style, I have a corporate style, and then I have a sort of third style. And we 5 different stakeholders. So you have to kind of align your technology and your communication in that way. And for me to change it, I can take one article and I can change it from being an informative article for our membership to a sort of a wider thing for people who don't really have an understanding, to a lobbying document for government. But it basically is the same document. Mm-hmm. And that is a very interesting thing to do and watch and go. And my ChatGPT or whatever it is comes up with me and goes, do you want this in Janus Galt style? Do you want it casual? And it actually tells me that. And it actually will pull down the developments from that day if I write it. There's a general rule: if you want to write a nasty email, don't send it the evening before. If you want to write an article, just wait. But if I write it in the evening, the following morning it will pull up for me anything that's happened overnight that will affect the changes, and I might nuance it in a slightly different way.
That's a fantastic use of the technology. It's a great example, and thank you for that. I know we're very conscious of time, so I just want to ask you one last very quick question each, and it is, what is the key thing your institute organisation is going to be focusing on in terms of advocacy for your members for the next year? Go.
Where do we start?
We'd like to go.
Yeah. Really, for us, it's about cost. It's about that cost question and communicating that cost and giving people a basically forum where they can come together and learn from each other. All organisations like ours are really about listening. COVID proved that. You're a mixture between Dr. Ruth, the Messiah, and the Prime Minister, all in the one morning. But that's what it is.
Good. Thank you. Great answer. Liam.
Yeah, of course, costs are the exact same for us. I don't think there's one set issue that we're just focusing on now. Obviously, for the past 2 years, it was the VAT rate. But there's lots of different things we're working on. Something that next Monday is being launched that we were working on is the new tourism strategy. Previously, food restaurants had been taken out of the remit of Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Ireland during COVID. We're hopefully going to see in this new tourism strategy a stronger focus on food tourism, which is very important. Every single tourist that comes to the country has to eat, and they eat in restaurants. So to not have restaurants involved in tourism is crazy, really. So that's just one example of something that we're working on, and we'd love to see a new food tourism strategy on an all-island basis to further promote the positive side of the sector, and obviously we're looking at the cost of food. One thing, for an example, and I'll pass it on then, is the agri-food regulator, to give them more power to be able to go in and to go into the middleman essentially, and see where the money is being being made, because, as I said, beef has gone up just under 100% in the last 2.5 years. Yes, farmers have got an extra money, but there's been a lot of money held there in the middle. And I've no problem saying that. I'm a farmer myself as well, so it hits on both sides.
Good to get the plug in. And the last word to you, Louise.
So the Irish Hospitality Institute is continuing to focus on the development both of the current hospitality workers and the future generations coming in, so that there's always a positive conversation around hospitality and the development and opportunities there within the networking. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Will you give a big appreciation, please?